Good morning and welcome to my channel, the Fruitcake Astrologer, where I will give you an astrologer's take on current events and people in the news. So this is going to be a short preview, a short reading on what's coming for 2027. So first, a little housekeeping, guys. I'm back on YouTube. I left after the purges. I wasn't personally purged, but I thought it was coming. So in honor of free speech, I moved over to the alternate platforms like Rumble, BitChute. And you know what I found? They're censoring too now, so what's the point? Now, I have noticed many channels who buck the mainstream are ending up on Substack, Discord, and or Twitch, so I may migrate there as well later on, especially if the censorship increases, which I think it is going to. You can find all my social media platforms listed here. Now, after much thought and soul searching, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, I've closed down my website and will no longer be doing personal consults. Now, guys, I'm pushing the big 7-0, and I just have this strong sense that it's time to give back. And so I want to increase my focus on this channel. I also have a stack of Horary charts, probably thousands, guys, as tall as me or taller, that I've been wanting to put into a book, a Horary book, with each chapter being a house. So it would have 12 chapters. So all the first house Horaries, I would write those up and put them in chapter 1. I feel like this might just be my life's work. And one thing I want to do before I pass over to the other side is I want to, as much as I can, to pin down that when question that's so hard for astrologers. Like, we can see stuff coming, but when? So hopefully going through all those charts will help me come up with some good rules about when and timing. Now, for anyone who's written a book, you know, it takes years, so it'll be a while, guys, but I feel so excited to begin it. It's been tugging at my heart for a while now, and I finally just thought, you know, let's just go for it. Now, as I said, I plan on doing more on this channel, not just mundane readings every quarter. I also have been doing the occasional Horary, but I want to start doing other things because we astrologers have a toolkit, like first trade charts, like this big SpaceX IPO, and just try to have fun with the readings. Now, housekeeping aside, let's get back to our preview of 2027. Now, guys, we know we live in precarious times. And I'm sorry to say it doesn't look like good news ahead. My personal mission is to protect my people and give them a heads up as much as I can. So let's begin with a quick disclaimer. I'm not a money person. I'm not a doctor. I'm an astrologer reading a chart, and I am not always right, guys. But I am 100% unfailingly honest with what I see, and I just tend to give it to you straight. So again, I'm not doing a deep dive on this. Remember, the calendar year starts January 1st, but the astro year begins about 3 months later, the third week in March. So this is this chart in 2027, third week in March of 2027. Now that feels like a long way away, but it's really only about 9 months off. Right off the bat, guys, we see that very unstable T-square in red. See, red are hard aspects, oppositions, and squares. And look at all the planets and points involved. Basically everything. Now, if I map those out, only the fourth house seems to be excluded from this instability. Think of a three-legged table. A T-square is like a three-legged table. It's unstable. And the apex of that T-square is the government and leadership, the 10th house. Now we see the fixed sign of Taurus ruling the leadership. Go down the grid, guys. Venus sits in Aquarius, a fixed sign. Okay, so we see Taurus and Aquarius. Both of them are fixed signs. They're dug in. They're not going anywhere. And look down the grid at Venus. Not a single positive aspect to Venus or the midheaven. Ouch. Now, you think it's going to go well for the leadership of the United States in 2027? I'm just going to say ouch again. And Venus, without a single positive aspect, rules the cusp of the third house of the media, news, scandals in cities and neighborhoods and our neighboring countries. Guys, with the midheaven so afflicted and Venus afflicted, ruling the third house of scandals and criticism of the leadership. Guys, very clearly instability of government in 2027 in the United States. Now, as I record this, Keir Starmer resigned. If you look at Korea's on their 4th, Japan's on their 5th, I think that leadership instability is heading our way. Alarming to me also is Mars and Jupiter conjunct the ascendant on the 12th house side in Leo. Okay, both Jupiter and Mars are retrograde. See here? Now, dispositing, yes, a stellium in Aries in the 8th. See this? Mars is just slightly better off than Venus. It has all negative aspects with one positive aspect to Saturn. Now, I don't really like contacts between the malefics. Now, trines represent an easy flow. So what is flowing easily? That's been my experience, guys. Now, the 12th house is not a nice placement. Mars in Leo is also not a nice placement. It's violent. It's fully aspects. Now, if we drill deeper and look at the Arabic parts, Mars is conjunct the part of discord within 0 degrees and 1 minute, and the part of imprisonment by 0 degrees and 3 minutes. Note the 6th house stellium in Aquarius, the rebel. Okay, Aquarius is rebellion. It's against the status quo. So who are the working classes rebelling against? Well, the government. Uranus sits in the 10th. Well, it's super afflicted midheaven of the government and large corporations. Now see how Mars disposits Chiron, Saturn, Neptune, and the Sun in the 8th. Now the 8th house is the house is one of the money houses. And we have the midheaven ruled by Taurus, the other money sign. Money's definitely implicated. Debt, DEBT, taxes, insurance with Neptune there in Aries. I'm thinking hyperinflation, guys. They keep saying inflation is 2%. Now, I don't know how many people believe that. It doesn't look to be true, but sure looks like the lies are going to continue on that front. And it might even mean our bond market has real issues because Neptune, of course, dissolves. And it clearly says war spending. We're going into debt for war. Look at all that Aries, guys. Now, this 12th house conjunction hints assassination. See how we have a pileup in the 12th house? The 12th house rules assassination, sabotage, hidden enemies that destabilize the country. Look at that T-square, guys. I'm getting a martial law read. Will the government, Uranus in the 10th and Gemini, call out the military, National Guards into the countryside to control the population? Why do I say that? Because Scorpio rules the 4th house. Uranus trines Pluto of power and control from the 6th house of the working class, but that's also the house of the military. Which is it? I'm betting we're going to see martial law in some city at minimum in 2027. Now, the 4th house cusp is conjunct the malefic star Serpentis. Remember, that was the only house that I could not map to that unstable T-square. The terror, the pest, the plague. I'm showing you what AI says about Serpentis, the malefic star Serpentis, and I'm also showing on the screen a picture from Ivy Goldstein, Jacob's book. I'll put a link below. No, I don't get a kickback. Does this mean the military and National Guard are terrorizing the countryside? Pluto sits in the 6th house, trining that Uranus and Gemini. Maybe people are fighting against AI, taking their jobs or controlling them. Pluto is control. Or does it mean the people begin harassing and terrorizing the government? The 4th and 10th house cusp oppose one another. More stress to that midheaven, guys. Now, remember when I said this is the only house not involved, the only one. Now, the 6th house rules the military, but also the working classes, the working men and women of the country. And it's an Aquarius, a sign of rebellion, of freedom. Literally powerful rebels among the working class. With Pluto, one of the best aspected planets in the chart, guys, what happens when the people feel like they can't get justice? Well, vigilantes appear, right? I mean, they can't get justice anywhere else. So I think that's what I'm seeing. Powerful groups of common men and women joining together to rebel against the government, harry them. And note, Scorpio is a fixed sign, and Pluto, Scorpio, sits in another fixed sign. So we see no one budging, not the government and not the people either. Now, I reserve the right to change this interpretation when I do the deeper dive, but it sure looks to me like powerful groups of men and women start sabotaging the government, working against AI, working against large corporations. Money is definitely involved with that pileup in Aries in the 8th and Taurus, the apex of the T-square. It speaks of financial hardship of the common people. Okay, why do I say that? Because Saturn rules the sixth house of the common people. It's hard. It's really hard, and they're mad. Okay? Saturn sits in Aries. It may mean that they're actually taking people's homes, farms, and land and controlling access to food. Pluto rules the fourth house of food. Creepy stuff, huh? Now notice also the afflicted Mercury is in yet another T-square in Pisces in the seventh house. Literally false speech about negotiations with the people. Moon in the first. Moon sits in the first house of the people. If anyone who has plans to join a rebel group is listening, or maybe you know someone who's planning on joining it, it sure looks like the downfall is communications. I would counsel you not, and I repeat, not to trust the government or large corporations during this period. And guys, ditch those cell phones. It is no longer a conspiracy theory that they're listening to everything we say in the so-called privacy of our homes, our cars. My thermostat is Wi-Fi enabled. My freaking stove is Wi-Fi enabled. I'm just saying, guys, it looks like communication will be their downfall, will lead to problems. Yes, they've clamped down on it, but find a way, guys. Walkie-talkies, Morse code, papers passed around like they did in World War II to evade the Nazis. Remember that? Again, note that afflicted Venus rules the third house of journalism and communications, guys. I'm just saying, communication going to be very, very difficult. Now, you think you're alone in your bathroom, you think you're alone in your living room, you think you're alone in your car. I don't think so, guys. I think 1984 is here. It's a little late. It came, several decades later, but I think that's what they want. They want to monitor everybody. All right. We see Chiron, the one that doesn't heal, sits in the ninth house of foreign things in Aries. The sign of war, literally a foreign war has wounded us in ways we cannot recover from. Is that what it's saying? And notice also Chiron is opposing the part of catastrophe. Now, is it saying these foreign wars just lead to catastrophe for us, or the people are going to be fighting against foreign things, anything foreign? Now look, I see we have a pileup in the 12th and a pileup in the 6th. That is called the health axis. The 6th house of health, the 12th house of hospitalization and diseases. And we have pileups in 2027 in both of those houses, which are legs of that unstable T-square. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, maybe it's going to be some sort of disease or a blight. Pluto sits in the sixth house of the common man, as does an afflicted north node. We are reaping what we've sown. And I consider the north node an indicator of the divine, of God sticking his finger down on planet Earth and giving it a stir. And he doesn't look happy with us, guys. Not a single positive aspect. And squares Serpentis and the midheaven. I find myself wondering, is it saying some disease and not a nice one, not like the COVID was not very bad. Maybe it's a blight that affects farms and crops. The Chinese have been caught twice trying to smuggle in some sort of fungus that would hurt crops. We see ticks being dropped. We see mosquitoes. We see screwworm in Texas. Some pestilence in the homeland that maybe causes more lockdowns. Now, if I'm back to the Arabic parts, the Arabic part of bondage and the part of imprisonment are involved this astro year as well. I'm showing it on the screen like we're being locked down again. Pluto ruling the fourth, control in the homeland for health reasons. Pluto sits in the sixth house of health. Is that what I'm seeing? I can't rule it out, guys. Now, for sure, I reserve the right to change my opinion after I do the deep dive, but it doesn't look positive. Look at those 4 planets in Aries. Now, guys, let's revisit the 4 planets in Aries: Chiron, Saturn, Neptune, and the Sun. That's not good either, guys. Mostly in the 8th house. Pluto sits in the 6th. That's Pluto's natural house, the 8th house. So are the common people really mad over taxes, over debt, over jobs, over anything foreign? Wild inflation. Neptune in a fire sign is classically inflation, wild inflation. Neptune in a fire sign. Saturn rules the 6th house of jobs and health, problems, restrictions, anger, fighting. Maybe inflation like we haven't seen, and taxes like we haven't seen. Now, that much Aries does imply a lot of war spending, like we're going into debt because of war. Look at all the afflicted planets. Now, what do I call an afflicted planet? That is a planet without a single positive aspect. You want to know whether a positive or negative side of a planet is going to manifest? Look at its aspects. When it's stressed, you're going to see the difficult side. Now, every planet, every sign, every house has a positive and negative manifestation. Stress them, and you're going to see the difficult side. So that means, look at all the afflicted planets in this chart. My goodness. Now that means we can expect what house the planet sits in, the afflicted planet sits in, and what house the afflicted planet rules to have a lot of problems in 2027. A lot of problems. And I've circled all the afflicted planets and points. I put red circles around them. You can see here. We see the first, second, third, sixth, 10th, 11th, and 12th houses are afflicted. So there you have it, guys. I've made my case why I think 2027 is going to be a very, very difficult year indeed for the United States. And I'm hoping to give you all as much a heads up as possible. I will be talking more about this next March and probably in some of my annual predictions that I'll put out in December. So guys, I know things are rough right now, but my advice to all my listeners is enjoy this relatively nice summer. Things are still pretty darn normal. I know it's tough. I get that. I know it's tough, but it's still pretty normal. And I'm probably early. I think I might be early, but I'm telling my friends and family to be ready to get to a safe spot by the end of summer, or at least have a plan by then. To my eyes, the midterms do look to happen, but chaos will follow shortly after. To my eyes, it looks like it's going to be a very close election. Voters are just disenfranchised. They don't like either. They don't like the Republicans and they don't like the Democrats. It's going to be very close and no one's going to believe who really won. Look at all the voter fraud that's coming out. My goodness. Now, what we see in the United States is a pattern of very unpopular politicians who have empty rallies winning by a landslide. You see, it's like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Nobody believes the election results anymore. What I'm seeing, chaos looks to happen after the midterms around Christmas of 2026, leading into a very difficult and unstable United States in 2027. Economic hardship, jobs problems, perhaps even some sort of health something or other, an unstable government, right? The same as Japan and Korea and the UK. Now, government instability looks to be heading our way in 2027. Rebellion, powerful rebellion by the common folk who form into groups, powerful groups. Now, if you have a job, my advice to you is to try to hang on to it as long as possible. If you can get out of the cities or have a plan to exit the cities, if you even have a plan, like you call your sister and say, who's upstate, and say, if anything goes south, is it okay if, I bring my family to stay with you? Or, have a plan. You will be so far ahead of anyone else. To submit, I'm really sorry to tell people this, and remember, I'm not always right, but I'm honest, and I want to give my people a heads up as soon as possible. Enjoy the summer. It looks to be the best period I've seen until at least March of 2028, which I haven't looked beyond March of 2028. Now, as I said in my annual predictions of 2026, the world will look very different by next March, about 8 or 9 months, and not in a good way, guys. Now, I know that's not good news, and I'm so sorry, but I feel obligated to tell people what I see. If I saw a friend walking toward a drop off and I didn't at least warn them, would I be negligent and not a very good friend? I personally am preparing for an unstable, turbulent 2027. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Like, share, and subscribe are always appreciated. In my eyes, you still have some time. Love to all. Bye.